What's going on, everybody? JTISREBORN here, and welcome to another edition of After the Movie. As you can tell, I'm really pumped up and my voice is really loud right now. You know why? Because I'm about to go see Pacific Rim 2 Uprising. As you can tell, I got my Gypsy Danger hat on right now, getting ready to go to the theater. And this is my before thoughts, and then we're going to get my after thoughts. But I'm super excited for this movie. I love the first Pacific Rim. It's one of my favorite kaiju monster battle movies of all time. I've seen it like 20 times. It's really the only time I've ever been able to see like a true monster, type. Well, I mean, I've seen other movies on the big screen, so I guess it's a lie. But like monsters fighting, kaiju on the big screen. It was the movie I always wanted to see. And it wasn't based on any property. And really, since that movie, I've noticed like the kaiju movies have kind of made a comeback. Ever since I was little, I've been watching these movies. A big fan of Godzilla, Gamera, Rodan, War of the Gargantuas, all sorts of other kaiju films like that. And it was a dream come true to see a movie like that on the big screen. However, it wasn't a huge hit domestically, but it was a hit overseas. So it was like one of those weird examples. And we had to wait a couple years, and we finally got a sequel. I hope it does well. I hope it's really good. I'm really excited to see it. All I'm looking forward to in this movie, Jaegers, kaiju, and just punching the shit out of each other. That's all I really want to see. You give me good enough actors to carry the film. Storyline, I don't honestly care too much for a movie like this. I just want to see the monsters fighting the robots. And if you give me actors that can carry me through it, through like the, not fighting scenes, then we'll be fine. The first movie did a great job of that. You had characters like Raleigh Beckett, who was played by Charlie Hunnam. He wasn't, in this movie, at least to my knowledge. And you had Idris Elba as Stacker Pentecost. Today we are canceling the apocalypse. He just gave that awesome speech. And you don't forget that. I like characters like that. You had Newt, you had Herman, you had Mako, and you had Hannibal Chow, played by Ron Perlman, who's fucking awesome. So, I love the first Pacific Rim. One of my favorite, movies of the last, 5 or 6 years. I've seen it like 20, 30 times. So, as you can tell, I'm really amped up for Pacific Rim 2 Uprising, and I can't wait. Just give me awesome monster battles, and some of the things I'm hoping for, I really hope to see. Eventually one day, I'd like to see this crossover with the MonsterVerse, so we can get, Gypsy Avenger fighting, Godzilla or King Kong or something. You could just do the parallel Earth theory or just, portals to other dimensions. Just make it pure insanity and just craziness. That's what I'm hoping for this movie. I hope it doesn't suck. Like I said, I have my expectations set, relatively. I'm trying not to overhype it for myself because part of me doesn't think it will match the quality of the first film, but you give me a charismatic lead in John Boyega, I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then you give me awesome robots, or kaiju fighting Jaegers, we're all set. Plus, I noticed that Jaegers are also fighting other Jaegers, and based on the trailer, I'm like, this is a movie I want to see. Give me that, we're all set. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Hope it's a great time. I'll let you know what I think about it after the movie. Oh boy, come on, Pacific Rim. Come on now. Please be good. Please be good for me. That's it. I'll see you all later, after the movie. And I'm back. Say hello, Godzilla, because I don't have a Gypsy Danger or any Pacific Rim figures, unfortunately. Say hello. Hello. Yeah, so I'm going to keep him right next to me, right here, so he stays put. I got to have something kaiju related. I realized that, when I saw the movie last night, I'm like, I just had the hat, I need to put on the shirt and everything. But, yeah, anyway, so I saw the movie last night. And it was kind of late, and I really wanted to let the movie process in my head before I, give my full-blown thoughts on it, because I was really looking forward to this movie. I waited almost 5 years for a Pacific Rim sequel, because I just absolutely love Pacific Rim. So, this section is going to be spoiler-free, and then I will do a separate section of the video completely dedicated to spoilers. So this is my own thoughts. I had to get it, let it all process, and the movie itself. Okay, so the movie, it's not as good as the first film. It's I love the first film, and I immediately want to go see that one again. This one, I'm going to see it again in theaters, but I'm not, rushing to go see it again. I like the movie, but I don't love it, if you know what I mean. In that sense, it is kind of disappointing how, it is compared to the first one in some instances. It definitely lacks the heart of the original, I'd say. John Boyega, though, he's a better lead than Charlie Hunnam. He's a lot more charismatic, and I thought he did really good. When the movie's with him, I'm like, okay, I can handle the scenes. But when it gets to, this supporting cast or whatever, these young pilots and that, I'm just like, just go. Just get to the fighting already. Jesus Christ. Whereas the first Pacific Rim, within the first few minutes of the movie, kaiju are wrecking shit, and then we get, fighting. This movie, the kaiju stuff doesn't really happen until the third act of the movie. In fact, like, this movie, like, the first hour of it, I'm just, like, outside of, like, one Jaeger versus Jaeger battle, which you see in the trailers. Actually, there's two Jaeger versus Jaeger battles. And, like, when it gets to the action stuff, I'm, like, really hooked. I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And then it cuts back to the boring stuff. I'm like, no, 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 no. But, you know what? I guess I'm kind of used to that a bit because I've seen a lot of Showa-era Godzilla movies. And a lot of those movies, it does take a while for them to get going in terms of, like, when Godzilla shows up and stuff. But, I mean, I guess I'm kind of used to it at this point because I've seen them all so many times that, like, it doesn't bother me. Maybe it'll be the same for this movie after repeat viewings that, like, you won't really feel the length of it until you get to the kaiju and Jaeger battles. So, yeah, so that's that. Okay, so this movie, the only returning cast members, you have Mako Mori back from the first film, you have Charlie Day, and you have Herman Gottlieb. So you have those three characters. So you have Newt, you have Herman, and you have Mako back from the first movie. Everyone else, no. I mean, there's like an Idris Elba like photo cameo, kind of similar to what they did with Independence Day Resurgence. But there's one mention of Raleigh Beckett, and then I think there's one mention of Hannibal Chow. But we don't know exactly what happened to them. Maybe it was explained in some of the Pacific Rim comic books that I haven't quite picked up and read yet, which I plan on, like, after doing this. But we don't know exactly what happens to them. Maybe if you've read the comics, you can let me know in the comments below what happens to them. But until then, they're not mentioned in the movie, like, and we don't know what happened to them. So, the plot of this movie, it's been 10 years since, Raleigh and Mako and, Stacker Pentecost, who's Idris Elba, and, one of the sons of the guy who should be the marshal in this movie, but he's noticeably absent. After they closed the breach, it's been 10 years of peace. The Jaeger program, they've just been building, massive Jaegers around the world. And then there's like this other faction who's trying to bring in drone Jaegers. And then you have Charlie Day, who's working with the drone Jaeger people. And you have Herman, who's just like, oh, the kaiju are coming back. You got people who are preparing. And then you got John Boyega, who's the estranged son of Stacker Pentecost from the first movie. And in essence, he's kind of like a lowlife. He just, cons people out of money and stuff. And he's just looking for scrap parts, and he's just trying to make a living outside of that. Then he gets hooked up in this, adventure with this one young girl, and then they end up in the Jaeger program. He has to, like, trains a new generation of Jaeger pilots. And then, for some reason, there's, like, rogue Jaegers, and the kaiju start coming back, and they have to stop them, or the world ends. So, let's get to the positive stuff first in this movie. The battle sequences. The battle sequences are amazing. Like, just like in the first film, although there is kind of like, in some ways you don't necessarily feel as much of the wow factor in some instances like you did in the first movie, like with the first time you see the battles. Maybe just because it was like a little bit slower, maybe like you felt like the weight more of the punches, and that city battle in Pacific Rim is one of my favorite action sequences of all time. And you definitely felt the heart and soul of it more with Del Toro as opposed to the new director, Stephen S. DeKnight. I know he's a big monster movie fan, and when it gets to the good stuff, the movie delivers. Like, it more than delivers on that front. Like, the action sequences are amazing, and what I paid to see is exactly what I got in that area. However, like, the human stuff, like I said, before I went to go into the movie, I'm like, okay, just give me a charismatic enough lead to carry me through the movie. And he does, his scene's fine. John Boyega does. However, it really starts to drag when we focus on these, young Jaeger, like, teenage characters. They're not funny at all. They're not really interesting, except for the one little girl, the young girl who's like, 12 or 13, who forms a bond with John Boyega. Like, honestly, I'm just like, just get them out of the movie. Like, I mean, in the last movie, we had a great supporting cast. We had Ron Perlman, we had Idris Elba, you had Mako. I mean, she's in this movie, but she's not in it as much. She doesn't get any Jaeger pile or anything like crazy like that, unfortunately. But, like, there's something about the first movie. It felt more focused, like the plot. Whereas this one, it's kind of a bit all over the place, and I don't really want to get into it until I get to the spoiler section. But, you kind of... I can't talk about it until I get to the spoilers, but there's some stuff that goes on involving one of the characters from the first movie, and he has a very intimate relationship with the kaiju. Yes, you heard me right. One of the characters has a very intimate relationship with the kaiju. Like, think Demolition Man, mind sex stuff. And as soon as that happened in the movie, I thought I just was like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, so like when it gets to the actual like action stuff, which is what I cared about, like, that stuff doesn't really happen towards the end of the movie, and, like, the first hour or so really drags in it, and I was just like, oh, man, come on, just get me back into this thing. And then, once, you know, you get Jaegers on Kaiju action, which you've seen in the trailer, all those Jaegers going up and have all their special abilities, like, the new abilities of the Jaegers and stuff is pretty cool. You know, I got, like, these electric whips, you got, like, sword fighting, and you got, like, punches, you got rockets, you just got so much crazy stuff, and the Kaiju battles are amazing in this movie. But they're not in there quite as frequently, and like it definitely is more of a like all over the place film, and I don't feel as much a connection to this world. It definitely feels like, is this really like the same? Like you know it's the same world, but it definitely feels really distant from the first movie, and that's kind of one of my issues. I'm like, it does kind of feel like a soft reboot. It reminds me a lot of Independence Day Resurgence, how that movie was. Whereas the first movie, you felt like this genuine like heart in that. You had like these characters, which they were, you know, somewhat cliched, but they were played by great actors. You felt like the sense of unity, and then this one you don't necessarily get that. It's like I have like some of the same feelings I had as I saw this as I did Independence Day Resurgence. Although this is a much better movie than Independence Day Resurgence, you do kind of miss some of the people from the first movie. Like by the end of it, I'm like, man, I kind of do wish Charlie Hunnam was in this movie a bit, because like he's one of my connections to the first movie. He's the main character. Not that Boyega doesn't do a bad job; he does a great job in the movie. But it's just like, I'm kind of missing that connection I had with the first movie. And you get the sense that Del Toro is an amazing filmmaker. He's able to elevate the material a bit more than the guy who directed this movie. And like I said, they do a bit of like, you know, universe building, sequel setup, stuff like that. But other than that, like I still did enjoy this movie. I'm going to see it again. Whereas the first movie is like a 9.5 out of 10 movie for me. Like this one is like just barely a 7. So it may change, it may go down a bit lower, or it may increase a bit with further viewings. But for right now, it's at like a solid 7 out of 10. I mean, I got what I paid for when I got to the Jaeger and Kaiju stuff, and that stuff is amazing. Like the last like 30 or so minutes of the movie is just straight up like an epic battle in the city, and you're seeing, you know, like Jaegers and Kaiju like punch the shit out of each other. I mean, it's in the trailer, so I don't feel like I'm necessarily spoiling that. And I do think the final battle in this movie is a lot better than the final battle in the first movie when they're underwater and they're fighting like all the kaiju. But like the first one had more of a definitive type ending. Like you felt like, okay, you know, we can do stuff later on, but like it felt finite. It felt like, you know, a good solid wrapping to the story. This one, well, we'll get into that in a second in the spoiler section. But overall, if you're a Pacific Rim fan, I encourage you to still see the movie. You may not like it as much as the first one. Maybe some people do, because this one is a bit more mindless in some instances. But it definitely does drag for that first hour with all these new characters we have to follow. And it's like, man, if you could have cut them down, focused more on Boyega and the young girl, Amara, I think that's her name, it could have been better. And I did still like some of the returning cast members. Like, Charlie Day is still pretty entertaining in the movie, and I definitely liked Bern Gorman, that's the guy's name, is Herman Gottlieb. Like, I like those characters, because, you know, I'm familiar with them from the first movie. But, what was it, Tug Henson, or whatever his name is? Like, one of the pilots from Striker Eureka, who was in the first movie, the one who survived, the one who broke his arm, like, he's not in this movie at all. And I figured he was going to be the Marshal now, but he's not at all. Mako takes on a new role as, like, Secretary of Defense or, you know, some general or some type of, like, you know, higher role like that. And I definitely, like, I wonder what happens to Raleigh. Maybe he comes back if they do a third Pacific Rim movie, but we'll see how well this one does financially. I mean, it's still only, like, Friday right now at the time of recording this video, so it could still do remarkably well, or it could bomb. Hopefully it doesn't bomb, because I want this movie to, you know, do well so we can get another one, and then hopefully cross over with the MonsterVerse and bring in Godzilla and King Kong and all that. So, but yeah, like I do have negative gripes with this movie. There's a lot of shit I want to talk about some more, but I'd have to get into the spoiler section of this video. So, for those of you watching, you can go ahead and stop the video here if you've seen it, or haven't seen it, I should say. And I'm going to get into the spoiler section right now, because, you know, I want you to see the movie first before I really talk into some spoilery plot elements. So, do yourself a favor, go ahead and check it out, judge for yourself. I'm not overly enthusiastic about it, which is kind of disappointing to me. That's why I really need to let the movie settle, because I didn't want to be like, man, am I kind of disappointed? Am I kind of angry at this movie? No, like, when it came to the third act, and you got, like, the battles, like, that's when I got the most into it. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty sweet. But then, like, just like I said, like, it really does drag, and we desperately needed some action in that first hour or so of the movie. Because I was like, even at times, you're just like, oh, come on, just get to the kaiju battles already. Because, I mean, the first movie, you definitely had that opening sequence, and then you had kind of the world building, but it didn't drag as much as this one did. It had some good character interactions with, like, Idris Elba and all that to carry it. And there's the look of the first movie, which I think looks a little bit better. But, like, I think the action sequences in this one are a bit stronger. But, like, regardless, I still had a good time with it. But just not as much as the first film. So, that's that. Let's get into spoilers right now. And for those of you watching, thank you. Now it's on to the spoiler section. Okay, before I get to the spoiler section of this review, I wanted to send a special shout out to AJPunk15 for making the customized thumbnail for me. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below, as well as my review of the first Pacific Rim. And yeah, thanks AJPunk15, you rock. Now on to the spoilers. And we're back. Okay, so let's talk full-blown spoilers here for those of you who have seen the movie. And I encourage you to stop the video right now if you have not seen the movie yet. Or if you don't care, I'll just get right into this. Charlie Day has sex with a kaiju. Like, mind sex with it, just like Demolition Man with it, and I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck is going on? And then, he becomes the villain of the movie. Now, I remember hearing something about that a few years ago, but I'm like, I remember hearing something like that, like, oh, is he going to become a villain or something? Like, I remember reading something like that, but I didn't think it would go through, so it didn't come as so much of a twist to me. But I'm just like, when I heard some stuff, people talking about it before, they, like, who had seen the movie before I did, talking about, like, they do something very weird with Charlie Day's character. I'm like, oh, this must be that rumor I heard about him becoming a villain. But I didn't want to believe it, because I was just like, that just sounds ridiculous. But yes, Charlie Day becomes the villain of the movie. So the reason the kaiju in that comeback is because when Newt, Charlie Day, initially drifted with the kaiju in the first movie, like, they were able to, like, basically, like, take over his brain, and basically for the last 10 years, he's been plotting a way to get the kaiju back. So his mind is basically being possessed. So Newt is still in there. It's just the kaiju have taken control over his brain. Not the kaiju, like, you know, basically, like, whatever they call them, like the aliens of the movie. They gave them a name, but, like, I can't quite remember it off the top of my head. But whatever the alien race was that grows the kaiju, like, they're basically, like, mind-controlling Newt, and then he basically, like, has been implementing these drones. He's been, like, hacking these drones so, like, kaiju can grow from them. And then the drones go haywire. And that's why, like, you know, you have Jaegers, you know, fighting, like, these other Jaegers, Obsidian Fury. And there's some other cool Jaegers in the movie, but, like, I don't remember their names off the top of my head. Like, because in the first movie you had Gypsy Danger, you had Striker Eureka, who were the two big ones. You had Cherno Alpha, and then you also had Crimson Typhoon, and then there was, like, the Mach 1 Jaeger that Idris Elba, Stacker Pentecost piloted. That was in there, and I can't remember the name of that one off the top of my head. But with this one, it's just like, so you have these, you know, like, kaiju Jaeger hybrids, which, you know, I'm like, okay, this movie, it doesn't necessarily have to mimic the first film in terms of just simple kaiju versus Jaeger. I'm like, okay, they're kind of advancing it, they're world building here and there. I didn't really necessarily care about, like, the idea of, like, drones versus actual Jaegers. And I'm just like, you know what, I mean, it's been 10 years since the last attack. I mean, I understand they're doing for drone stuff, but, like, it takes up so much of the movie that it becomes kind of disappointing. It's like, oh, just move the focus somewhere else. But yeah, anyways, that's how they bring the kaiju back. They open the breach, and then a few kaiju come through, only 3 of them, and then the Jaegers and that have to fight them off, and we get that stuff. But other than that, there's some other things that really upset me in this movie. The death of Mako Mori. She's basically just got brought back just to get killed, and, you know, add motivation. So this movie kind of, like, in a way, she was like one of the main leads. Like, her whole arc in the first movie was, you know, like, you know, finally getting to be a pilot, working with Raleigh Beckett, and then, you know, taking on some kaiju. And it's disappointing that Charlie Hunnam didn't make a cameo in this movie. And I'm just like, you know what? I would have been cool to see, like, Mako team up with John Boyega in the film, and then, like, she has to come out of, like, retirement, and then, kind of similar to what Idris Elba did in the first movie, and then she ends up co-piloting the Jaeger with him. But no, she gets killed by Obsidian Fury, who was this other Jaeger. And that first battle in the city, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. You get the sense of scale. Like, the combat in this movie reminds me an awful lot of, like, Gundam Wing. And I'm just like, this is like a Gundam movie right now. This isn't feel like, because the first Pacific Rim movie, I didn't get, like, I mean, it got a bit of a Gundam Wing and Power Rangers type vibe, but like the Jaegers were not like not quite this mobile as they are in this one. They're a lot faster. They're a lot like sleeker designs. They're able to move around a bit more, and I thought the CGI for the most part was really solid. And it's just cool to see a kaiju robot battle on the big screen. But negatives, like I said, is that Charlie Day becoming a villain. I don't know what to think. It's so off the wall, insane. The moment he puts on the helmet, he's just like, ah, oh, pleasure me, kaiju. And I'm just like, what the flying fuck is happening to this movie? And it definitely did make me kind of like, what the fuck? But anyway, so one of the coolest things in the movie is when he's just like, okay, kaiju and Jaegers, blah, 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 that's boring. So then he, like, releases these devices for this other corporation that was kind of rivaling, you know, the Avenger, the Pacific Rim Corps or whatever, like, you know, whatever the defense force is. And then he hacks all these machines, and you have like all these weird looking, you know, like tadpole machine type things like going all around. Like, oh shit, how are they going to stop this? Then they take these three kaiju that were like, the whole reason the kaiju attack like the Pacific side is because kaiju blood is very reactive to the Earth's like rare earth elements. And so they're trying to get to Mount Fuji so that they can, like, their blood can react with the rare earth elements and set the whole Pacific Rim on fire, basically like engulfing the Earth in toxic gas. It terraforms it for them, and then the aliens can come in and take all their resources and stuff. So that's the reason they've been attacking the Pacific, which makes me wonder, why are they attacking Alaska unless they're kind of doing the same thing? Or maybe it's a distraction. I don't know. Just wipe out the populations. But that's just what they do. Then these three kaiju, whatever their names are, because I remember like the kaiju in the first movie, it's like Otachi, Leatherback, and then you had like Slater and Raichu and stuff. Like Leatherback was my favorite, like the gorilla-looking one that fights Gypsy Danger, and Gypsy just like shoots it. And then you had Otachi who could fly. We don't really get any flying. We don't get much kaiju action in the movie until like the last 30 or so minutes of it, and that can be a pretty good, like, you know, big disappointment, especially for me, who like I was expecting a lot more with the kaiju. I'm like, God, I just paid to see Jaegers fighting, you know, kaiju, and it was cool to see them fight other Jaegers, but I'm like, I more care about the monsters than like robot on robot action. You know what I mean? But then they form the super kaiju, and this thing just like dwarfs all these Jaegers. I'm like, okay, this is pretty fucking cool. When that thing comes in, just like roars, and like all the like glass in the building just starts like shit starts getting wrecked. I'm like, okay, and then like, you know, Jaegers are getting just wiped out, and then like some Jaeger pilots die because they're dumb stupid kids who shouldn't be piloting this stuff. Honestly, they should have just. It would have been perfect for Raleigh Beckett to come back in the third act. Was it really that difficult, Charlie Hunnam, to come back for just like out of nowhere? Like, he can hit him, and he can have the Marshal at the end of the first movie, like one of the pilots of Striker Eureka, and you could have done something cool with that. But unfortunately, he's not in this movie because apparently he didn't do this, but he did fucking King Arthur: Legend of the Star, which is a terrible movie, hilarious but terrible. I thought that would have been so cool. Like Mako, like his friend Mako, like who was sort of, kind of like liked him, but like they didn't go through with it, which was honestly one of the smartest things they could have done. I really want to know what Del Toro's vision would have been for the sequel, because obviously he's gone on to state that, like, since he didn't direct it, the vision differed, and he couldn't make the movie. Shit, like, Del Toro would have made this movie a lot better. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, but, like, he just sets himself up for so many projects that he can't, like, keep up with them. And I'm like, Pacific Rim was, like, my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie, and then, you know, you go, like, Hellboy, and, like, you know, I still got to see Pan's Labyrinth. I think, you know, Shape of Water is pretty good too, but like Pacific Rim is the one I enjoy the most. When that movie came out, I was like, wow, this movie's unique and stuff, but like, you definitely do feel the length of this movie as well, but like, man, that first Pacific Rim was special. Like, it was a special movie for me, because it's like, it kind of started this resurgence in monster movies that we've seen over the past few years. At least some sort of giant monster has appeared, like, in the cinema. Like, I remember it was like this in 2013 was Pacific Rim, then you had Godzilla the following year. And then 2015, I think there was something else, but I can't quite remember. And then 2016, you know, you had Shin Godzilla. And then you had, I guess, Independence Day Resurgence with the giant queen alien. And then you had Kong Skull Island last year. And you had Pacific Rim this year. And then next year we're getting Godzilla, you know, King of the Monsters, and then Godzilla vs. Kong. We also have Rampage coming up, which I'm very much looking forward to. It's crazy. It's just crazy to see all these, you know, monsters and kaiju coming back to the big screen. But anyways, like, the way they finished off the kaiju in this movie, Gypsy Avenger, who's, you know, taken over for, like, you know, Gypsy Danger, flies all the way up to the sky, and then just basically, like, it's almost like a giant, like, missile, like, asteroid comes right down, collides, and hits the super kaiju, who's just, like, wrecked everybody's shit, and then kills it, and then the movie just, like, it's just, Boyega and the one girl are just throwing snowballs at each other, and then it just abruptly ends right there, and I'm like, really? It just, like, just kind of did that, and then we get, like, a mid-credits scene where John Boyega goes up to Charlie Day, and Charlie Day is just, like, possessed, like, blah, 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 blah. And then he's just like, we're coming to you. We're bringing the fight to you, you alien assholes. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is the same exact ending as Independence Day Resurgence, like, when, Dr. Oken says, like, let's go kick some alien ass. It's the exact same ending. So, like, the sequel, with this one, they want to go to the kaiju dimension. I'm like, okay, I have a great idea. So, like, if they do a third movie, which I hope they do, I hope this movie does at least well enough financially to justify a sequel, and in that sequel, you can cross over with Godzilla in the MonsterVerse. So, like, when they go to the... My idea is, like, they go through the breach, and then on their way back, you know, Gypsy Avenger or something gets separated to where they end up in the MonsterVerse. And then, like, if you end Pacific Rim 3 with Godzilla staring down Gypsy Avenger, holy shit, like, that would be the perfect way to end that movie. But, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to do that. So, yeah. But anyways, those are my thoughts on Pacific Rim Uprising. It's not as good as the first movie. Some of the decisions made just kind of baffled me. It really does drag that first hour and, like, 20 minutes. Like, there's, like, a few moments there, like the Jaeger on Jaeger fight, like, in the Arctic is pretty cool. But, like, I didn't feel as much of the wow factors I did in the first movie. It didn't feel quite as special in some of the combat, but, like, the final battle is when I really started to get into it, because, like, before then, I was just kind of like, man, this is really, I'm feeling kind of disappointed right now. And then when it got to the final battle, like, that's when I got more into it. But, yeah, I guess you could say the movie is kind of a disappointment to me because of how, like, high regards I hold the first movie. I mean, I really do love the first Pacific Rim. It's probably my favorite monster movie of the last, like, 10 years or so. But, like, this one, it just doesn't hold up quite as well as that. It's not as good as the last monster movie I saw, which was Kong Skull Island. I thought Kong Skull Island was a lot better. You know, better directed, better, you know, stuff. I mean, there's still some cool action scenes in both movies, but Kong was a better movie than this. I mean, they're really different movies, but this movie, it just felt like I couldn't connect to this world like I did in the first one. The first one, it just, like, it was simple. Kaiju come through portal, we close portal, ending kaiju. This one is just like, oh, we got the ship with the drones, we got this stuff, oh, we got, you know, Charlie Day being possessed, oh, we got, like, Jaeger kaiju hybrids, and then, like, the Mount Fuji, and then I'm just, like, going, like, just make it simple. This movie should have been a little bit more ridiculous, and, like, it should have had more action. Like, it desperately needed more action, because I could not stand these teenagers. Like, when they're on screen, I'm just like, oh, I don't care. You're not funny. You don't have any distinguished personalities. I mean, the first movie, I mean, they kept it simple. They kept the focus mainly on Raleigh, and you had Mako, and then you had, you know, Stacker Pentecost. And then you had kind of like a dick kind of rival to him, like the Striker Eureka, but, like, the dad was still cool. And then you had, like, the two scientists and Hannibal Chow. Like, that's pretty much it. This movie, you got the two scientists from the last movie. You got a bit of Mako Mori. You got Jake Pentecost. You got this girl, and then you got these other pilots that they're trying to focus on. Like, if they should have honestly just mimicked the first movie and just kind of ignored them and just focused on the girl and Boyega. Now, Scott Eastwood is in this movie too, by the way, and he's pretty much a nothing. He's just, like, he's just there. That's it. Like, he doesn't really, like, wow me or anything like that. But yeah. Oh, one more scene I did want to talk about. There's a scene where he's, like, you know, eating, like, junk food with Scott Eastwood's character. I think his name was Nate, and he starts like eating this ice cream, and then he starts like, you know, he grabs, I think, his sprinkles. Instead of just opening up and kind of pouring on his thing, he just sticks his hands in there and just eating out of it, and he just closes it out. Like, that's very unhygienic of you. Like, just wanted to say that. And lastly, the music. Okay, this is a big problem I had. The first movie has one of the best scores I've seen in the past couple of years. Like, that Pacific Rim theme is amazing. They do include, like, kind of a version of it in this movie. It's a bit tweaked. It's like do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Like, that theme is amazing and memorable. This movie, like, the music is very generic. They didn't have the same composer as the first movie. The only bit of cool music in there is the theme kind of remixed a bit. But, like, it desperately needed that awesome music for the first movie to really help emphasize some of the points. But, yeah, it's like I didn't like any of the real new characters. Like the supporting cast. It just like, man, like in the last movie we had fucking the supporting cast. We had like Ron Perlman. We had Idris Elba. And then this one we just have a bunch of people I've never seen or heard of that they're really trying to force this next generation stuff. And the world felt very foreign to me. Like the first one, I felt like, you know, I know this world. I can understand it. I understand what's going on here. I could connect to it better. This one I don't really connect to as much. It feels very distant for what I know and love. But I mean, it's been a while since the last one, but you kind of get the idea. So I still like the world of Pacific Rim. I really hope, like, if they do another one, it's a lot better than this one. I hope they bring back Del Toro. But we'll see what happens with this movie. Hopefully it does well. I know it seems like I'm really kind of shitting on this movie. And in a way I kind of am in some instances, but that's just because I really love the first movie so much. And I wanted this movie to be better. And it's not bad. I think it's fine. It's good. It's like a 7. But it's nowhere near as good as the first one. So take it for what it's worth. I'm gonna get going. Isn't that right, Godzilla? Yeah, we're gonna get going. And go see Pacific Rim Uprising if you feel like it. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. Movie was a movie. I like the battle sequences. Like, if you're going to pay just to see the fights, then you should leave satisfied. Like, honestly, just if you go see it on a big screen, or go to a matinee, take a nap for about an hour, wake back up, watch the action, you'll leave satisfied. That's how kind of I feel, because like that first hour really does drag, and it needed more action and more battles. Like, honestly, just make it mindless battles like throughout most of the movie, because they save it all towards the end, all the good stuff, and that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, it gave me a really cool ending, but it didn't feel as like, but just needed more. So. Anyways, that's all I got to say about this movie. Hard to believe I waited like 5 years for this movie. Like, after the first movie, I'm like, oh, I need a sequel. And it's just like, oh, it's not going to happen. And, like, we finally get this sequel here. It's not directed by Del Toro. It's produced by him, and it's produced by Boyega and stuff. But, like, I really do hope this movie does well. I don't want it to just be a total bomb. It's just like all these other movies come out, like, you know, we get like 50 superhero movies a year. And I like the superhero movies just fine. But, like, I want to see more monster movies. Like, that's my cup of tea. That's, like, old school Sean right here. Old school JTISREBORN. You know, kaiju films, mech films. Like, it reminds me of, like, Power Rangers and stuff. This movie, it's just, like, I'm glad it exists. I'm looking forward to the next monster movie, which is supposed to be Rampage. And I heard some crazy stuff happens in Ready Player One, which is supposed to be coming out next week. But, yeah. Also, before I end this video, you can go check out my review of the first Pacific Rim. I'm going to leave it in the description below. And, yeah, I'm kind of just like, this is all like improv, but I did have a lot to say about this movie. I love the first Pacific Rim with all my heart. It's like one of my favorite movies of the past couple years. It's like a classic monster movie. I've seen it like 20 or 30 times. Maybe not 30 times. Maybe like 20 times I think is a good number. I don't know. Maybe I've seen it more. It has been 5 years, and I have watched it a ton of times. Maybe I have. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. I've seen it a bunch of times, though, so I know, like, beat for beat what happens in that movie, like, from heart. But, like, this one, I'm just like, we'll see how it, like, you know, holds up after I, like, watch it again. Maybe I'll like it more. Maybe I'll like it less and feel more disappointed. But we'll see. I'm just glad to see some Jaeger and Kaiju-type battles on the big screen. When that shit happens, it's pretty cool. But the rest of it, when it's not there, it's like, so, we'll see. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And hit that little bell for notifications. And if you're a monster movie fan, go see Uprising. If you're a robot fan, go see it. Do what you gotta do. So, I'm gonna see it again. Maybe I'll like it more the next time I see it, but until that happens, these are my thoughts on it. So, yeah. Alright, thank you for watching, everybody. Have a nice day, night, whatever time it is for you watching this video. I don't know how to end this review. I really don't. So I'm just going to play out to the Pacific Rim theme, that awesome theme from the first movie. And until the next kaiju movie happens, I'll see you later. JTISREBORN, out. Peace. Bye-bye. You get the idea. Okay, later. See ya. Bye. Adios.